Uh, tell me when it's live, if you will, please.
Okay. Okay, there's no the content of this meeting is being sent to Facebook.
For 1 minute. Waiting for a confirm on my end. Here we go. Great. I see we're live. Go out of that. Hi, everybody. How are you today? Today is episode number Who Cares? Because it's all about our guests. So I want to thank you for tuning in to these interviews and my YouTube, youtube.com/Lynn Smith 246. Today's guest is an actual real friend of mine in real life. Just a second. Excuse me, you guys. Excuse me. If there's any way you could just hold it a little bit down, I would really appreciate it. Thank you. Anyway, so people tend to get louder if you don't tell them. Okay, so I'm in public. So my guest today is Bob Moran. He's not going to say anything to him. It's hard to keep comedians from talking. Like, can we talk? Okay, this is the intro that I just thought, because I don't know how to do things correctly ahead of time. Bob Moran, in parentheses, robertmoran.com, is a Boston creativity and performance coach. That's a big deal in Boston. He's also a stand-up comedian, a stand-up guy, if you want my opinion, life model, and executive producer of a comedy educational television show called Comedy Gold Secrets. Now at 50 plus episodes, innovative Thrive Create podcast has had numerous comedian creatives as guests, including Jerry Corley, who I started with, Felicia Madison, and my dear friend Claudia Bonavita. He's the author of The Trauma-Informed Entrepreneur, which is available in audio form on his podcast. Bob recently led a workshop, 60-minute workshop titled What Being a Creativity Coach Has Taught Me About Managing My Comedy Career. He addresses 3 areas with his clients that they frequently need help in. I had trouble reading that sentence. 1, importance of your comedy team to your success and how to pour a non-existent team. How to, we'll ask him about that. I think if your team is holding you back, getting yourself talk to work for you, not against you, and then an incomplete sentence that says how see. So we'll get him to explain that. So this happens, guys. This is called real life. We're live. Sure. Anything can happen. Just exist it. So now sit back, kick back, put your legs up. Don't put your pants on. Just don't show us. We're going to have a fun interview. I want to welcome to the stage right now, Bob Moran.
Thank you, Linda. Great to be here.
We did it with only a few hiccups. Bob, hi.
Hi.
So yeah. I assume, thank you for coming on, by the way.
My pleasure.
My pleasure. It's my pleasure to introduce you to my friends and fans and stalkers. Hi, stalkers. You got to have haters. They elevate your game. So I just want you to know that I'm really glad to get to know you. And your introduction was something I want to delve into. However, we're going to take that, put it on the shelf for a minute, like on the shelf, like at Home Depot, and we're going to talk about Bob Moran growing up, little Bobby, if you will.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Yeah. So one of the things is I'm really glad to be.
Grew up.
Yeah, I grew up. That's right. See that? It's official. Yeah. So one of the things I say these days is growing up, I was the oldest of 2. It turns out when I was in my 50s, I found out I was actually the 3rd of 9. So the spoiler alert, my mom and dad couldn't have children the regular way. So my mom went to a fertility clinic in New York and was artificially inseminated. And I found out in my 50s the identity of the donor dad. And then through the miracle of the internet, we did some search, and I found out that I've got a bunch of half brothers and sisters.
And are you in connection with all of them or some of
Um,
them?
Almost all of them. Yeah, there's a few that have chosen to not connect with us. We have a family group chat now, which is terrific. We wish each other happy birthday or holidays and things. I grew up in New Jersey and went to Piscataway High School. Then I went into the service. I went to the Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland. Fulfilled my dream to become become a Marine officer. And then I was out in the big world on my own. So that's kind of my growing up story.
Wow. What did you do in the military?
So what I did was I ended up going into the Marine infantry. So when I first got out to my duty station, I was a platoon commander in Camp Pendleton, and then was on battalion staff for a while, and then came back. My last year was in Brunswick, Maine, actually, at the Naval Air Station, where they had a type of plane called the P-3, and they had a Marine security detachment. So I was in charge of the guards guarding the planes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Important stuff. I just counted money.
There you go. That's important too.
Yeah. Wow. So how many years in total were you in the military?
So total 4 years at the academy, which is essentially like a 4-year college, and then 5 years what they call active duty, and then 1 year in active reserve.
Fabulous. That's
Mhm.
so great. Thank you so much for your service,
Yeah, you're welcome.
serving our country. So you grew up to your sign or something like that, right?
You cut out for a second. Grew up what now?
You grew up thinking there were.
No, I missed it again. I'm sorry.
Are you there now?
I'm here. Yep. It
You
freezes
can hear
while you're
me
talking.
now.
I can hear you now.
So, you grew up with a few siblings and found out there were a ton more just recently. When was that you found out?
That was about 10 years ago.
Awesome. So I wanted to go through your life, and you're in comedy, and I don't know what in your life, like if you saw early signs, now that you look back, did you see that you were always, did other people
Yes.
see you were funny? Did anybody encourage you to do?
Yeah. So
Tell us.
I was in fifth grade during the Watergate scandal, and I'd seen a comedian on TV, Rich Little, and he was did impersonations. So in fifth grade, I was in the back of the class doing an impersonation of Richard Nixon. And my teacher said, "Oh, that's so good. Come up to the front of the room." And she had a couple of teachers from the next room come in. I did the little, I'm not a crook. And that was my first time, I guess, performing.
That's so great. And so would you give her credit for turning you into a funny person, or did you always make people laugh?
Yeah, I certainly always enjoyed comedy. I think I caused people to laugh. One of the things my I'm junior, so my dad that raised me enjoyed comedy, and we would watch like Monty Python. He always liked telling jokes, and he brought home a tape recorder one time, so I used to record jokes on there and play them back. So the idea of writing and producing, I guess, has been in my blood for quite some time.
That's fabulous. Let's so then after, did you go straight from, might have skipped a spot here, but did you go straight from high school into the military, or was there some college, or did you get educated college wise in the military? How did?
Yeah. So from high school, I went to the academy, and the academy was college. So graduated in June, and like a couple of weeks later was down there, started college. They always had summer training, so started right away.
Super, super duper. So when you were in the countries go to, and how did that form you into the wonderful, patient, kind person you are today?
Can you ask that
Travel
again?
helps.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it stalled again. Did what change me?
travel helps a person have a broader perspective and be more patient with others.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the great things about the service was there was a lot of travel. So from California, we went to the Far East for 6 months, 2 different times. So got to meet a lot of different people. I've always enjoyed languages. One of the things I would do would be to get a phrase book for the country language that we're going into and try to use the language to say hi to people and just sort of simple conversation. But it was really eye-opening to see the different different cultures, right? Language, food, of course, entertainment. Yeah, really enjoyed that. Very broadening.
Okay, so being as this is time for an interview, it's not an hour. I apologize, but let's get into everything that's in your introduction. Tell
Okay.
people the different facets of who you are today. We're just going to fast forward
Yeah.
into who you are today. I've met you on Joke Zoom. All my friends know you out here. They
Yeah.
love you. You're
Uh-huh.
great. So let's talk about what you're up to these days that's in your introduction. Explain it to people so
Absolutely.
that
Sure. Yeah, happy to do
you'll
that.
gain more fans and you'll get more followers
Yeah.
naturally.
So one of the things, so with the creativity and performance coaching, I work with several people that are aspiring, creatives. And that's one of the things that led into the podcast. So the podcast is on Spotify. It's called the Innovate, Thrive, Create podcast. And it's about creativity of all different types. So some people are authors, some people are comics, um, you know, some people are comedy trainers, and it's a great way to meet people, as you know, right? Being the host, right? You get to talk to people that you might not get to talk to in depth, and that's something that I'm really enjoying doing because the when I first started stand up in 2023, I realized it seemed to me there was sort of like a mystery. Like, how does a person navigate from an open mic to, paid positions? And I really wanted to figure out that for myself. And then I thought, well, if I learn how to do that, I can tell other people. So that's part of the genesis. The other thing in the intro is the comedy TV show, which is called the Comedy Gold Secret Show with Robert Moran. Very excited to have you coming on soon to be a performer on that show. Um,
Just a second.
yeah.
Excuse me. Excuse me. Please keep it down a little, please. There's a lot of you and it's coming right over here. I appreciate it. Back to you.
Okay.
Comedy Gold Secrets.
Comedy Gold Secret. So the show, one of the concepts that I'm developing, which is exciting to me, is something called community comedy. So how can we use community and community activities to develop, comedy as a hobby for people from high school up through college? Up through being a senior, senior citizen. And also, like, are there ways that we can use comedy and humor to make communities better and more fun? Maybe address some of the divisiveness and things like that, which I think is needed. And I think comedy can really play a role in that. And then the other part of the show is the flip side of that, which is the comedy community, which is talking to people that are in comedy professionally and try to understand what are the things and steps that a person would need to take. So the idea is to be of service for the show, to be of service to community comedy for hobbyists, but also to professionals as well.
Okay. And so how do you make that? Like, give us one little tidbit about that.
So one of the things is the idea that if a person's interested in starting, there are a lot of different places that a person could take a comedy class, right? Could be at the local community college or adult education. There are professional comedians that teach courses that's another great way to learn. In my case, I went to a class at the Cambridge Adult Education. And at the end of that, there was a showcase. So the class is oftentimes a way to learn something about it, but then also to get that first performance under a person's belt.
Absolutely. Let's talk about someone's first performance for a minute, since you know the Comedy Gold Secrets.
Yeah.
Like, if they have a great one, that can be a good and a bad, and if they have a bad one, it can be a good and a bad comedy or that watch comedy.
Yep. Yeah. So I absolutely. So one of the other products that I have, it's not on the intro, is this thing called Comedy Friends. and the idea of developing a local network of people that are friends in the comedy field so that they can be supportive of each other, right? To help soften the blow if something doesn't go well, to be encouragers of one another. Also, if there's somebody who's a little farther along, to maybe give some tips, but to try to really speed up like and establish like a mentoring process. Because I
That's
think, yeah,
it's so important that you have people that aren't trying to be subversive or,
yeah,
that they're really committed to your success.
yeah, yeah. So part of the vision there. So I've developed a like a meeting format. We've had our first few ones in Arlington, Mass, right near me, of the Comedy Friends Club to get it started. But the vision is to then roll that out and let other people start their own little Comedy Friends Club using that format all around the country. Because everywhere you go, I think it's good to have, people that are supportive.
Yes, that's very important.
Yeah.
I love a supportive environment. If I
Hmm.
go to one for support and find out it isn't all that supportive, it's kind of a letdown. So kudos
Yep.
to you
Yep.
for
Thank you.
being committed to that. It's very much needed because, like in comedy, it bottom line is we all are competing with each other for
Hmm.
some spots to get past, get on at
Yeah.
Madison Square Garden, and
Yeah.
but yet we're not going to get anywhere with bad karma. So we need to be kind
Right.
to each other and help.
Yes.
I think some of the best things that happen are when we help each other, and then
I
for no
agree.
reason, just to be a good person.
I completely agree. Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that I like is when you see, many of the podcasts now, there'll be like a group of people sitting around together and they're all sort of chiming in, and it feels very much like their colleagues, like their friends, and that they're not, backbiting or competing, harshly with each other.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So tell us about your comedy career as we get to the towards the end of this.
Yeah.
What's going on with your comedy? What do you have coming up?
Yep.
Especially where to follow you, and end it with. I know it's a lot to throw at you, but end this with a couple things you want spectators and comedians, bookers, agents, club owners to know about you.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah. So for me, I do open mics. There's a couple that I go to on a regular basis. One is downtown, which is a public open mic, and then I also do the open mic at my local senior center, and that's a once a month activity, and that's been really good. I'm actually going to be starting to teach a class to the seniors, so stand up comedy for seniors. So hopefully, it's going to be something again to build a sense of community. Also, maybe help people to go from being a wannabe comic to maybe performing at the open mic there, and to give them a chance to get on the mic and to work on their material. Um, and one of the big things too is this idea that uh, a lot of us have issues from our childhood, right? So for me, one of the things that was behind my desire to write the book, The Trauma Informed Entrepreneur, is because there were so many times when I was left to fend for myself that eventually I just said, no, I'm just going to do everything on my own, right? I'm going to be an independent. I'm not going to depend on anybody else, which is a big decision to make when I'm, 6 or 7 years old. But that is one of the things that was really formative for me to want to go down the entrepreneur path and the coaching path. I never really wanted, I mean, other than the service, I sort of steered away from big organizations. And part of the hope from the book is that comics and others, as they listen to it, they might be able to see themselves. And in the book, there are a couple different techniques to help them address and maybe unravel some of those issues that they had growing up and help to accelerate their career.
Can you say that one more time? The internet skipped out.
Okay. Yeah. So one of the hopes that I have for the book is that, comics and other people who are creative that want to advance their career by doing some of the work, right? The book has three special techniques that I used that helped me and maybe can help unlock their career and help them to reach the heights that they hope for.
I know in your intro, I didn't understand the second and the third point you were. So when it got to the important how, so could you are you able to finish those points you made about Comedy Gold, your comedy career management, being a
Sure.
creativity coach taught you?
Yeah. So one of the things is again, this idea of the team, right? And from the study and the research that I've done, it's not just having a large network of necessarily knowing a lot of people in comedy, right? But there are actually 6 key positions of knowing people in those different spots that make the team an effective team. So I went through that in the workshop in some great detail, right? So, for example, one of the ones is having people in our life, our career, that are able to give us new information about things that are new that are coming down the pike. Because being able to be an early adopter of things, I think, is very helpful, right? So, for example, one of those, there's a website which I really like called Plausible, right? And Plausible is a platform where comics can put their information up on the internet, and they can actually do shows and they can earn money online. So it doesn't use Zoom. They actually use the Plausible video, but a comic can charge money. And then there's a 60-40 split, 60% to the comic, 40% to Plausible, the platform. But it's a way to start to literally put a dollar value on the time and effort and the creativity that we put into our comic performances.
Wonderful. So
Yeah.
the last point was, do you have any more to say about that? Because I had trouble when I was doing your intro reading all the points about it.
Yep. Yeah. So the second one is about getting your self-talk to work for you, not against you. Right. So one of the things oftentimes is that if something doesn't go 100%, people can be very like harsh and merciless on themselves. Right. And there is a way to work on a person's self-talk where they can use affirmations in a couple of key ways. Again, I laid these out in the workshop, but it doesn't have to stay that way. And for me, one of the real breakthroughs in my life was this idea that critical voice, it wasn't me. It was actually I'd internalized my mom's negativity. And now when I have a negative thought, I can challenge it and I don't have to buy into it and think, oh, yes, that's right. I am terrible. Oh, what was I thinking? And it's really been a big difference for me.
How does one sign up? Is your seminar still being offered, your workshop?
Well, I did it the one time on Zoom, and I'm going to be offering it again on Plausible. And when I get those details, I'll send them to you and other people so that we can get the word out and people can join in, participate in the workshop. I would love that.
Well, what would you like to say to people out there who are watching comedy, watch about you? What would you like to say to new comedians, weathered veterans of comedy about you?
Yeah, what I would say, and for me, one of the things that was a little daunting at first when I did the open mic is the people that were there seemed very standoffish, and there were like cliques. So I would just want to encourage new people that there are friendly people. You might have to dig a little bit to find them, but when you find them, it's really no pun intended, but it's like comedy gold, right? Finding people like you and others that are supportive and have a good, generous spirit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And if you wouldn't mind,
Hmm.
I know this is a very abbreviated time, but you can come back and promote anything anytime.
Okay.
Just
Thank
hit
you.
me up like a week before and I'll slip you in. But would you mind telling everybody uh, every, everywhere they can find you on the internet?
Sure. Yeah. So the coaching stuff is on Robert B, middle initial B, Moran.com. That's a good place to find me for coaching. And then on Instagram, 2 accounts. One is Robert B. Moran, which is my comedy and also my coaching. And then a separate one for Comedy Gold is comedy at Comedy Gold Secrets. And with those, that's probably the best way to reach me.
Where will you be performing in the next week or so?
Well, the next one I'm going to be performing, I'll be an MC. I'll be hosting the taping of the show April 29th, 2025 at the Arlington Cable Access Show, Comedy Gold Secrets, live comedy, 3 comics and 3 interviews.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you're fabulous and you're hitting it hard and you
Yeah.
have a lot to offer to the comedy world. And I'm just so thankful you came on so my people can get to know you.
My pleasure. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you so much, Bob Moran.
Yes, thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.